Now I'm going to move you to Amber Heard's
God.
damages. With respect to Amber Heard's claims for damages, on what subject have you been asked to offer your opinion?
So I was asked to look at the reputational harm and economic loss that Ms. Heard incurred due to the defamatory statements that Mr. Waldman, on behalf of Mr. Depp, made in April of 2020. And
She
again
doesn't
in
know it's
June
on behalf of
2020.
Mr. Depp. She doesn't know that.
And what materials did you review?
She doesn't know it was on behalf of him.
Again, many of the same materials that I reviewed for Mr. Depp's case, which was the deposition testimony, the pleadings, the discovery, all of that was included, as well as expert testimony that was based on statistical analysis of negative social media campaigns that were created, as well as what happened. I talked to Ms. Heard's agents. I read their depositions. I talked to her publicist. I read her deposition. I talked to Ms. Heard herself to get a first-person accounting of what happened from her perspective after those defamatory statements were made. And then I looked at the, again, emails back and forth and texts back and forth with the studio, Warner Brothers, and other producers that the management team is working with to get Ms. Heard more work.
Okay. Now, before I go into the questions that I'm going to ask, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of define this so that we're all on the same page going through it. The jury has seen the 3 defamatory statements. They're defendants 1245, 1246A, and 1247. And I'm just going to refer to them as the Depp/Waldman statements in asking you all these questions. Will you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, good. Please describe Amber Heard's career prior to the publication of the Depp-Waldman statements.
So Amber's had a long career for someone who is not, is fairly young still. She was in over 50 productions, I believe including Aquaman and Justice League, but let's just say close to 50 productions.
How many of them nobody cared about?
50 productions before the defamatory statements were made. She had, a consistent working actor's career. Her agents were strategic as she started getting
49,
more work,
yeah.
that they wanted
48,
her to
Pineapple
work
Express
with better and better directors, to have, the Danish Girl is a film that had a strong director and a strong critical acclaim. And then she went from that to getting Justice League, which is on the bigger budget, is the bigger scale movie, and then, of course, Aquaman and Aquaman 2.
Aquaman.
So her career was following a very nice, steady rise, and she was on the precipice of a meteoric rise with with Aquaman and Aquaman 2 prior to the statements.
No, she wasn't.
Was Aquaman a successful film in terms of box office sales?
Aquaman was an extremely successful film. It made over $1 billion, and I believe it is the highest grossing DC comic film ever.
That's true.
Now, what, if any, accolades did Amber receive for her role in Aquaman? And I'm going to call it, sometimes I'll call it Aquaman 1 just to make sure we don't get confused.
Right. So in Aquaman 1, there were many emails from the director and the producer. And
Objection, hearsay.
She's just characterizing, Your Honor. She's not quoting them.
Well, I don't know where it's going. I'll overrule at the moment.
Thank you.
She got email from the producer stating that they loved her performance.
Objection, hearsay.
You can't say what the emails say, but you can summarize them or characterize them. Can you do that?
Accolading emails? Emails of accolade from her, from the director and the producer.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled as to that.
It's just like this is such horse shit.
What type of press opportunities did
This
Amber
contradicts
have
an
prior to
earlier
the Depp-Waldman
testimony.
statements?
So the press really loved working with Amber. She was on the cover of many magazines after The Danish Girl, after Justice League, after Aquaman. She was the cover girl, I think it was, of Marie Claire or Elle in the UK. She had a cover story of a big magazine in Mexico and Australia. They were, one magazine called her Woman of the Year, another one called her Role Model of the Year. So she got a lot of press You know, she did a lot of press, both in magazines, but also in the press.
I'll be right back. I got a ball. I got a.
And were some of those California Style, Marie Claire, Elle, Shape, Glamour?
Yes, there was a lot of
Objection
them.
leading.
Overruled.
There was a lot of them, so I'm not, don't remember all of them, but it was, GQ, Elle, Marie Claire, the big magazines, both here, the UK, Eastern Europe, in Latin America, and in Australia.
And what about after the release of Aquaman, which was December 2018? How was her press then?
Well, the press tour was doing well, and they wanted to give her a lot more press. And I think up until the defamatory statements came out, she was on deck to do a lot of press. And then it
Objection, no foundation.
Overruled.
Please continue.
So the press and the request for press went silent after the defamatory statements were made, and which then the negative social media campaign ensued after that.
Now, what factors relating to social media does the entertainment industry rely on when considering an actor for a role?
Social media becomes a big part of how studios decide to use an actor or an actress in a film, because they want to know how the general public feels about them. They want to know what the consumer feels about that actor. So when there's positive social media, that's a good thing for the actor. When there's negative social media, it can be very bad, because not only can social media be directed at the actor or the actors themselves, but it can also be directed towards the movie, towards the movie company, towards the product that the actor or actress is working with. So it becomes very complicated, and it can get very messy to continue working with an actor or an actress if there's a lot of negative social media around them.
Okay. And after the Depp Waldman statements, what happened on social media?
After the Depp Waldman statements, social media blew up with negative tweets and Instagram posts and, Facebook posts and Snapchat and trolling, as we call it. It was just negative. According to Mr. Schnell, there was over 1.2 million negative tweets about Amber using hashtags that used the words in the statement of the Depp Waldman statements, excuse me.
Okay.
That 1.2 million negative statements between April of 2020 and November or January of 21. That's a lot of negative publicity, and there was just a lot of what we call noise around Ms. Heard and her work of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please describe to the jury what a negative social campaign is?
Oh, here we go.
A negative social campaign would be when
boomers explaining social media
fan base, or in this case, according to both the forensic statistical analyst as well as Ms. Heard's agents and the product that she was working with, L'Oreal, and her publicist, it was a campaign that included both live accounts.
Oh, we're bots, by the way.
Have are individuals.
Yep, here we go.
As what we call
Objection. May I be heard?
All right, here come.
What a stupid fucking thing to say. I don't think there's anything that's come out of this woman's mouth that wasn't fucking stupid. Like, I don't think there's a single thing that she said in this entire fucking testimony that wasn't completely fucking stupid. Like, I don't even know where to begin. I actually started writing down every single thing that was stupid because I lost track. Like, I actually did. I completely lost track. She says Pirates doesn't exist. Can I say Johnny? No, it's not about the Aquaman 2 or anything like that. It's like, number one, all of these people saying all this good stuff about Amber Heard, they already said a couple of days ago that Amber Heard didn't get more roles after Aquaman. It didn't give her the boost that they thought it would. Remember that?
Other than the bots, please describe the rest of the social media, the negative social media campaign.
It directly contradicts it.
The fan base was very energized by Mr. Is it the Depp Wald?
Yeah, let me
just have nothing to do with her.
I'm sorry, there's a lot in my brain right now.
It doesn't matter. Why don't I do this? Let me formulate a different question. How has the negative social media campaign been used against Amber Heard since the Depp Waldman statements?
Great. So the negative campaign has been used both to, let's fire Amber off of Aquaman, to the product that she had an endorsement contract with L'Oreal, the makeup, and every time that L'Oreal mentioned Amber Heard and the product together, they would get harassed. Her publicist company was harassed. Any kind of movie that she was related to or television project that she was related to got negative attention from the social media world. Even the
people didn't like her.
The charities that she was involved with were getting hammered, if you will, or bombarded by negative social media, which made it difficult
involved
to work with
not
Amber on
donated
any
to.
level because negativity was brought to their product, service, or film.
Okay. And is that negative social media campaign ongoing to this day?
Yes.
Okay. And you were talking
That's
a little
us,
bit
guys.
before, I think, about
We're part of it.
Remove Amber Heard from Aquaman 2. What were your observations with respect to that in connection to the Depp-Waldman statements?
Again, the statements, the social media campaign, whether called, remove Amber from Aquaman or, negativity for her relationship in that film, it always tended to use words that were inside the defamatory statements. They became hashtags, right? So, if it was said in the defamatory statement, they were often reiterated in the tweets and the posts.
Like Amber Heard?
How difficult is it for an actor to repair
That's explicitly
this type
untrue.
of negative social media?
Well, first of all, it has to stop. Okay, so once it stops, then an actor and their team can work slowly and patiently in both. Maybe it's press interviews, maybe it's relationship with charity, maybe it's a small role in a movie and they do well and they kind of rebuild their career. But it can take
like Mel Gibson
2, 3, 4, 5 years or more to rehabilitate your career. But first and foremost, it needs to stop.
Right.
It just needs to stop so that they can, the consumer can get beyond it and then they can reactivate their career by doing their work again.
Describe Amber Heard's reputation after the Depp-Waldman statements.
Well, the reputation, I guess, depends on who you're talking to, but in the public, it's been very negative.
Yeah.
In the industry, they like her work, but they can't work with her right now, again, because every time her name is mentioned, the negativity flares up again. So it doesn't make sense for them to try to make a movie which costs millions of dollars and then have a lot of negativity towards the film or the TV show or the product. So her world has been silent in terms of opportunities and even things that she wanted to work on are no longer available to her.
Has Amber been able to obtain roles after the Depp-Waldman statements?
For a long time, no. Very recently, she was able to do a small independent film from some people out of who get their financing out of Europe, but up until that, no, she has not worked.
Now, based on the fact that Amber came out of Aquaman, what would you have expected following the release of Aquaman, December 2018?
She played no important role
to what's going on now.
Like, what do you mean?
I like to call Aquaman really, Amber Heard's Star is Born moment. It was that moment where not only was she a good actor, but she was now
That's a weird way to pronounce Jason Momoa.
Because she was in the most successful film.
That's a really
almost
weird
of all
way.
time, if not all time, and certainly for DC
Well,
Comics.
I've never heard it pronounced that way.
She was on the poster with the very handsome Jason Momoa, and they were this couple, and she was strong and beautiful, and it was just this extraordinary moment for her career to take off, right? Her agents were excited, the producers were excited. Everybody just wanted to hit the ground running and let's do more. Let's do more work.
Then why didn't they?
What, if anything, happened to Amber's participation in Aquaman 2?
So for a moment in time, in February 2021, there were conversations that Amber's, I'm going to be technical with you, her option for employment was not going to be exercised. So they may not have hired her again, even though she had a contract for it. There was some question as to whether she was going to be hired again on Aquaman 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And did ultimately then she still get hired for Aquaman 2?
She did. Her management team fought very hard, and they ultimately ended up hiring her, but also not only because of what her management team did, but Jason Momoa, the star, and James Wan, the director, committed to her in an email saying, if we are involved in this movie, you
Objection,
will
no foundation, hearsay.
No, sustain the
Don't
objection.
say
I thought he said he didn't want to work with her.
summarize it or describe it,
Oh, okay.
please.
I'm sorry.
I thought he said, yeah, I thought he didn't want to work with her. I thought he didn't
so-
like her.
Her management team worked hard.
Yeah.
And Jason Momoa and the director were adamant that she was in the film.
Objection, hearsay.
Worked hard
I think
to
that's,
be in the
Your Honor, she has to be able to say that.
Wait, I don't understand this.
Next
Right.
question.
So, what if any
Was this
assurances
expert gossiper?
did
Yeah.
Mr. Momoa and Mr. Wan give Amber that she would be in Aquaman 2?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay. Momoa just followed Johnny on Instagram too?
What if any, are you aware of any chemistry issues between Amber and Jason Momoa from Aquaman?
According to the fact that they did a chemistry test with Ms. Heard and Jason Momoa in order for her to be hired, that is a good indication that they thought the two of them had good chemistry. Obviously, when you look at the movie, they have good chemistry, and the poster, they have good chemistry.
People
So,
said the
I
opposite.
think it's general awareness that they had great chemistry.
No, it's not.
And what, if anything,
Does she live on
would
the
also
moon?
suggest, with respect to Aquaman 2, that Jason Momoa believed they had good chemistry?
He wanted her in the movie.
Okay.
Objection,
I think,
hearsay.
I think she has to be able to rely on it.
Sustained. I'll strike it from the record.
No, there it is.
In your review of all of the record evidence, what, if anything, did you see in writing anywhere that there was ever any chemistry or creative issue with Amber Heard and Jason Momoa from Aquaman 1?
There were no communications whatsoever that there was no chemistry between the two.
And what, if anything, did you, in all the record evidence, did you see that the producer or Jason Momoa did not want Amber Heard in Aquaman 2?
I did not see any evidence of that.
Okay. In fact, the opposite, correct?
Correct, again.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, what, if any, leverage did Amber Heard have to renegotiate her salary under the circumstances of the discussions you were talking about with not exercising her option?
She had zero leverage. She was fighting for her life to stay in the film.
Ah.
Now, is it typical for an actor to be able to negotiate an increase in their salary after a successful franchise?
Sometimes I would assume so, yeah.
You may know this already, and so I apologize if you've heard it before. I don't know what's been brought to your attention, but in a franchise such as, a potential franchise as Justice League and Aquaman, the customs and practice is that the studio will make an agreement with the actor that incorporates potential future films. So if Justice League does well, they want to know what they're going to pay the actor for the next one and the next one and the next one. And in those successive terms in the contract, the fee for that actor customarily goes up.
Yeah,
it
of
can
course.
go up by 10%, 20%, 100%. It could double. What have you.
Right.
And in the case, as Ms. Kovacevic stated in her testimony, that in a successful franchise, that a movie that's made $1 billion, the actors' agents will go back and try to renegotiate that upcoming price tag. So if it was going to be X, they might want it to be 2X or 3X.
Right, yeah,
and that's
obviously.
very standard in the industry
All
to
that makes
renegotiate your
sense.
contracts when there's many films in one single contract that each have their own price points.
What, if any, other actors in Aquaman 1 were able to renegotiate their contracts?
Jason Momoa renegotiated his contract very significantly from Aquaman 1 to Aquaman 2.
Good.
Do you know roughly how much more?
It went up
It's
from
outside of the scope.
Somewhere between $3 and $4 million to $15 million.
Fuck yeah.
Did Amber have a
There
contract
it is.
for Aquaman 1?
Yes.
How much was she paid
My
for
man.
Aquaman 1?
Aquaman 1, she was paid $2 million.
Okay. And if... And
Yeah, it's his
did that
fucking
same
movie.
contract provide
He made
for
$1 billion.
if she was in Aquaman 2?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Aquaman 1, I believe she got $1 million. Aquaman 2, she was supposed to get $2 million. I apologize. The numbers, there were a lot of numbers in that one contract. So Aquaman 1, it was $1 million. Aquaman 2, it was going to be $2 million.
All right. Now, based on your experience and knowledge in the industry, how much would Amber Heard have been able to negotiate her contract but for the Depp-Waldman statements?
How would you
For Aquaman 2,
possibly
I'm
know
asking.
that?
Right.
Like,
Well, as you can see from Mr. Momoa's contract, that went up exponentially.
Don't
up to
even
$15 million.
compare it.
Ms. Heard, I don't know if she would have gotten $15 million for the movie, but she certainly could have increased it by $1 or $2 million or even doubled it. So if it was 2, it could have been 4 or even 5 or 6, depending on the enthusiasm if it had just rolled from Aquaman 1 to Aquaman 2 without any of this negativity that was created by the Depp Wallman statements.
What, if anything, happened to Amber's role in Aquaman 2 after the Depp Wallman statements?
It was diminished.
didn't they say that wasn't true? The people that did the
Now,
the
why
movie?
would Amber have been featured more prominently in Aquaman 2?
Objection, no foundation.
If only a foundation.
Okay.
Yeah, so they
What
yeah, they
usually
said that already.
determines- are you able to speak to whether Amber should have been or would have been more prominently featured in Aquaman 2?
Well, a couple of things.
I'm trying to get your foundation. Are you able to speak to that?
Yes.
Okay. And please tell the basis of that and then your opinion.
So there's 2 things. When 2 actors do well in a romantic relationship and, they get married or they're going to have a baby, you want to follow that through, because part of what did well in Aquaman was not only the action sequences, but to have a strong female character having a relationship with a strong male character, it's very empowering, right? So that was working for them in the first place. The poster of Aquaman that went around the world was, one of the main posters was of the 2 of them together standing proud and strong. Right, being that couple. And so naturally, as you go and develop scripts in the industry, you want to follow on the things that are working. And according to Ms. Heard, when she read the first script for Aquaman 2, she had a strong romantic arc for the entire film. And then she also got to do some great action sequences at the end of that storyline in that script. So she was featured predominantly throughout the script of Aquaman 2 when she first read it.
All right, and then what happened?
Well, she didn't hear anything, so she wasn't getting the scripts. When her colleagues were getting the scripts, she heard that through her agents. And then when she got the script, it was pared down from the first script dramatically. They had her in the hospital very shortly in the first part of the movie called Act 1. They had her in the hospital, and they pretty much had her in the hospital, and then she was going to do this action sequence in the end. She trained 5 hours a day for several months with a trainer to do this big action sequence.
I find that unlikely.
And then when she got to set, 2 things happened. One, the costume designer said, I don't know what happened to your role. It got diminished. And
Objection,
2,
hersay.
Sustained.
All right, go ahead with the second
Okay.
one. That's
And
all right.
Maybe
more
they cut
importantly,
it because nobody
this
gives
big
a shit
action
about her.
sequence that she was going to do at the end of the movie in the 3rd act was cut out, and they took it away from her. So it was radically reduced from what it was in the script and what she even trained for while she was preparing for the movie.
And what, if any, changes were made to the storyline?
Don't
I
spoil
haven't
it.
seen the movie yet specifically, so I can't really speak to that yet.
All right, and when you say she was in the hospital, what do you mean by, was she injured in the first scene?
I believe that in the first act of the movie, she was injured somehow or had something to do with the baby. I don't know exactly. I'm just going with what Ms. Heard told me about, was that she ends up in the hospital early in this new Aquaman 2 movie and doesn't really come out till the end to kind of wrap things up. But all of the interactions with Momoa's character and certainly the action scenes were taken out.
Okay. From
How
what I
has
was
Amber
told.
typically been involved in promotions?
So
for
she
her
never saw
films?
it.
As we talked about earlier,
Yeah, so she never even
actively
saw
involved
this.
in the press and the promotion, whether that was on the press junkets, what we call when they tour the world and the actors tour together and answer questions from the press at various screenings and film festivals. And then also she was, on the cover of magazines, usually after her movies, especially after Justice League.
And how was the promotion of Aquaman 2 affected by the Depp Wallman statements?
Amber has not been involved in any of the promotion that's been done to date, or very little, particularly in a teasers that I've seen, we call short little films about the making of and so
Right.
forth. She's not featured in them. And also, very specifically, there was a big event that Warner Brothers put on during the fandom. I think it's a DC fandom event, which is a big kind of like Comic-Con style event. And they invited all of the actors, or the majority of the actors that have strong roles in film, to participate, both in the posters and the artwork, and also participate at DC fandom.
It makes
and Ms.
sense.
Heard was not invited
Sure.
to either be in the poster or be at the event. And in fact, they told her she cannot come.
Now, can this hurt Amber's career, not being allowed to be in any of the promotional materials?
Of course.
Absolutely. It means that nobody knows about her. She doesn't have the same part in the film. It's not going to take her on to her next movie. She's not being associated with the tremendous amount of promotion that's going to be made for this, movie that everybody's looking forward to see. So she's not a part of it because of this negative campaign.
How have the Depp-Waldman statements affected any other films or TV project promotions?
The
for Amber?
Depp-Waldman statements. Wait a minute.
Prior to the defamatory
Wait,
statements,
what?
But either around the
How are you
after
gonna just-
or around the time that Aquaman 1 came out, she was in the TV show called The Stand. It was based on a Stephen King novel. So, big book.
Oh my
Going to
God.
be a big TV show. And again, Ms. Heard didn't do any press or promotion for that for the same reasons.
Yeah.
And what, if any, plans were there to have Amber
Get out of
Heard
the frame.
on the cover
Thank
of
you.
LA Style relating to Stand before the Depp-Waldman statements?
Right. So Ms. Heard was in, and they had done an article about her participation in this TV show, The Stand, the Stephen King novel related TV show, and they were going to give her the cover picture and cover story, and they took that away. I don't know if the article existed, but they certainly took away the cover picture and the cover story.
Okay. How have the Depp-Waldman statements affected press requests for Amber?
There aren't any. So yes, they affected it because there used to be a lot of press requests, and now there aren't.
All right.
Has Amber Heard obtained any roles since the Depp-Waldman statement?
Again, for many years, no, for a good period of time, or a year and a half, 2 years, until she got this small movie called Into the Fire.
Okay. Has Amber obtained any studio movie roles since the Depp-Waldman statements?
No.
How, if at all, have Amber's philanthropic opportunities been affected by Depp-Waldman statements?
What philanthropic?
Again, she had some passion projects. She was invited to do some charity work, and she also had her own passion projects that she, loved and wanted to be involved with and even travel for.
Oh my God!
But they decided
This is
it
so
wasn't going to be a
shameless.
good idea because every time she appears anywhere, the social media negativity campaign starts up again. So
Wow.
she hasn't been able to do any of her charity work.
What is an
I can't
endorsement?
believe this.
So an endorsement is when an actor associates themselves with a product,
Yeah.
either for print
This is unbelievable.
promotion or commercials, like Jennifer Aniston doing The Water, or Matthew McConaughey doing the car commercial. That's a product endorsement. He's paid to say that the product is good and be associated with the product.
How important are those endorsements to the actors in the entertainment industry?
Well, very, very important on two levels. One, they bring a good amount of income to them when they're not shooting a movie, so it's a good way to make money in between film roles. And then also,
Sponsorships. Yeah, I get
it
it.
shows the studios and the production executives and the financiers that the actor is relevant in the community because they're being associated with the product. So if it's a well-known product, that's really great.
Yeah.
If it's a medium product, that's great, and so forth and so on. So
Right.
you want to be, if you can, and if that's something that you like to do, not everybody does, but if they like to do that, then they can get a lot of
I want to have the
value out of those product endorsements because then the
looking
studios
for-
see that there's
I
a
wanna see the
consumer,
cross-examination on this one.
not just on the film, but also
Oh
the
my
product.
God.
Did Amber have any endorsement activities prior to the publication of the
It's the L'Oreal
Depp-Waldman
stuff,
statements?
right?
Yes.
Please explain.
So Amber was hired by L'Oreal
Yeah,
to
we
be
know.
a product and endorse their product, the makeup line. And she had a $1.5 million contract for 2 years.
That's
and
nothing.
They were able to work. They had 20 days of her work. They had the right to work with her for 20 days. And she started the work. And then when the defamatory statements came out, they essentially put a pause on working with her. So they no longer brought her to photo shoots. They no longer had her do public events for the product. And it basically said, we love you, but we can't work with you right now because it's just too much.
Objection, hearsay.
All right. I'll sustain the objection.
Well, I think that's true. That's probably what they said.
Have the Depp-Waldman statements affected that deal in any way with L'Oreal?
Well, they put it on pause and haven't done any of the work, so she's not out there in the public eye related to the product.
But they extended
it. They have decided to continue working with her at some point once, as I said, this all quiets down, this trial is over, and hopefully the negative campaigns will stop.
That's not going to happen.
So they extended her contract, but they did not pay her for that extension.
And has Amber been hired for any other endorsement deals since the Depp-Waldman statements?
No.
Now, did you assess
Can you
Amber's
imagine the
losses as a
anti-wizard
result of the Depp-Waldman
if they
statements?
put him on the stand?
Yes.
What did you do to assess those?
Oh my God.
Well, first of all, I looked at Amber's career directly,
If they put him
so I
up
wanted
there?
to see, as I said earlier, she worked consistently, and then she was on this kind of very large upswing with the big movies, Justice League and Aquaman, and all of that, and The Stand with the Stephen King project, and then it stopped, right? So her work stopped. And then I looked at other actors that kind of grew up at the same time frame. Grew up meaning they started their career and had the same time frame to start going from the smaller projects to the well-known director projects to the big movie projects. And I looked at those actors, and I then saw, after they had their Stars Born moment, if you will, I wanted to see where their careers went. So I looked at several actors to see, including Jason Momoa, her co-star, to see what happened in their careers after such a successful film as Aquaman came out.
What a
Why
joke.
did you use that method of analysis?
It's a very common methodology in the entertainment industry to work with what
Yeah,
we call
he was
comps.
already
I think
well known
this
from
Foster
Game of
to
Thrones.
even use that word comp.
People loved him. He was my dad's favorite character.
With films, you try to find comparable films. With actors, you look to see comparable actors. So you can kind of, it's not a distinct actual, this is going to happen, but this is the probability with a reasonable certainty that with the right management team that she had and her acting ability and her looks and the press that she was getting and should have continued to get, that her career would have been similar to these other actors.
Have you used that method in other cases in which you've been an expert on damages?
Yes, I have.
Who did you select as comparable actors for your comparison?
Okay, here we go.
Well, I wanted to look at actors that were in superhero films that had done really well at the box office. So I looked
Don't
at
look at
Jason
Henry
Momoa,
Cavill.
her co-star. I looked at Gal Gadot, who was is in Wonder Woman. I looked at Ana de Armas, who was in
Blade Runner?
Thank you, Blade Runner.
I don't know about
looked at Zendaya, who was in Spider-Man, and I looked at Chris Pine, who was in Star Trek and also Wonder Woman. About the similar age range, all attractive actors, all with good acting skills, all able to do stunts. So there are not that many actors to look at who do superhero characters. So it was a small pool to work from, but I took a wide range from those actors, both men and women, to see what could potentially
Not as
happen.
much
to Miss
younger.
Ridge's
Yeah.
career.
Do you consider all of them to be identical for purposes of measurement?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, no two actors are identical. You can only look at that within a range of characteristics and work history, management team, and so forth.
And we've heard from Mr. Banya. Did you review Mr. Banya's Q-score analysis regarding the comparables you used?
I'm about to
I did.
pop off.
And
Just
what, if
go
any,
on break.
opinions have you formed in reviewing
Go on
Mr.
break.
Banya's analysis
Stop.
regarding the comparables you selected?
So Mr. Banya looked at calendar years to assess what happened
my
in December
God.
of 2017 or 18 or 19, what happened in June, what happened in a very specific time frame, which works on some statistical analysis. But when you're talking about actors and their relationships to Q-scores are related to the actor's viability in the consumer's mind, if you will, how well known or how much they're coming up in conversation.
Okay.
And so Mr. Banya did not look at time periods of the actors that I compared them with to the film when it came out, so like right after the success of their big film,
Yeah.
what was their Q-score, but moreover, he just looked at them in a year range. So it doesn't coincide from actor to actor just because you look at it over time. You have to look at it specifically after each of those individuals' box office success with a particular film. You look at the Q-score high or low during that, and then you look at how low it drops say a couple months afterwards, and then if it comes back up, if they have another film or another event that brings them into the limelight again. So it's not about time, it's related to a specific activity or event, and he did not do that.
Okay. What did your comparisons show in terms of films that those actors had been in since their breakout roles?
I'm about pop off. Let's go.
I'm talking about the comparables.
Come on.
In terms of their, I'm not quite sure I understand.
Well, what happened with these other actors after they had their stars
unrelated to
moment?
Q-scores.
Right.
Oh, okay, sorry. So all those actors' careers, the ones I mentioned, they all either were a steady rise or even a meteoric rise in terms of where their career went after their Star is Born moment. Then they got some other good films, and maybe they got another film that performed extremely well.
Yeah.
So it was a range, but they all were on an upward trajectory without a doubt.
And what does this mean for Amber?
With a reason, I mean, the way that the kind of industry works is usually, unless there is a force majeure or some really negative event, her career should have followed that same upward swing in about the same time frame, give or take 6 months to a year. But it would be very reasonable to believe that her career would have been on an upward trajectory within the range of those other actors.
What, if any, comparisons did you make respecting endorsement deals?
That's fucking funny.
You know, again, all those actors that we've talked about all did multiple endorsement deals after their big movies.
That is
after
funny.
Their big series of movies. You know, Jason Momoa is on, Rocket Mortgage and Harley Davidson, as well as, 5 or 6 other companies. Zendaya is Lancome and fashion and water and jewelry, and Gal Gadot and Chris Pine and Ana de Armas. They've all done either a couple or many, and all of them have associated with a large brand. Unlike Amber, who hasn't even been able to work on the one contract that she had. She certainly didn't get any others.
So what did your analysis show with respect to
Oh
Amber
my
Heard's
God.
losses, but for the Depp Waldman statements?
They were significant if we follow the
Oh
trajectory
my
of
God.
her, colleagues.
Well, let's start with at Aquaman 2. What would she have realized there?
Well, as I stated earlier, so from Aquaman 1 to 2, it went from $1 million to $2 million, right?
Yeah.
So that was a pre-written contract. It doubled. So the agents
Oh my,
were
bro.
very excited after the success of Aquaman to go and negotiate a much higher fee like they did for Jason Momoa. They weren't able to do that. So in that instance alone, it was more than likely a $2 million loss just from that movie alone.
Oh, right.
2 to 4, you had said before?
It could have been 4, it could have been 6.
Objection leading.
Sustain.
Okay. What about other films?
That's fucking.
So once as Amber's agent,
Oh
Ms.
my God.
Kovacevic. I was doing okay. Ms. Kovacevic said that once you get that quote of the $2 million from Aquaman 2, that kind of was like the baseline for any other movie she would have done. So any other studio movie would have started from there, and depending on the success of Aquaman and how much press she did, maybe she worked on another great director, independent film, whatever, that $2 million for a studio film, and had it jumped to $4 million with the renegotiation, that then would have been the basis. So any future studio film that she would have done, any big budget film, would have been the basis at $4 million, and then most likely have gone up from there if she was able to get others, which she should have, just like the other actors.
Which she should have.
Let's talk about TV for a minute. What would those losses have included?
Well, On the Stand, which was, about the same time as Aquaman, but got the press and the promotion got cut off because of the defamatory statements and the negative campaign. She got paid $200,000 an episode on The Stand. So on a TV series of 9 episodes, it's $1.8 million. So if she had, again, done other TV shows, it's very likely that whether she worked with a streamer or with one of the networks, that fee would have gone up from there. Her agents would have been able to use the leverage of the success of Aquaman 2 to put her, if she had done another television show,
oh my God,
given rise to even a higher episodic fee. Some actors go up to $1 million an episode. Jason Momoa's in his TV show got $1 million. So there's
a good show. I watched
an exponential range of where she could have gone.
All right. What about endorsements?
Same thing. All the other actors were doing over the course of a couple years period.
Bad science, yes, it's
anywhere
stupid.
from 5, 6, 7
It's
other
ridiculous. It's
endorsement
fucking
deals.
stupid. Like,
and Ms. Heard realistically should have gotten endorsement deals in other categories. L'Oreal is makeup, so probably not in makeup, but maybe water or clothing or jewelry
I'm about
or
to, oh man.
wellness, or it could have been anything else. And so she too should have, with a reasonable degree of certainty, gotten other contract deals based on the success of the films that she's been associated with and the TV shows she's been associated
And what would
with.
that have translated into in terms of dollars?
So in terms of dollars, okay, so if it was $1.5 million
Oh my
for
God.
L'Oreal for a 2-year contract, and let's give her 4 other $1.5 or $2 million deals, which all those other actors, especially the ladies, have gotten, then you're looking at an additional $8 million of income over time. I'm not saying this is in one period. We're looking at as far back as the defamatory statement.
This
of
is so
2020
funny.
To now. which
How
is
can you
almost
be
2
this
years.
fucking stupid?
And again, as I said earlier, even when this is quiet,
Wow.
it will take 3 to 5 years for her to rehabilitate her career if she can. So we have to look at it as a period of a minimum of 5 years. So when I say $8 million for endorsement contracts,
Yeah.
it would have been over time.
Of course.
What, if any, losses relating to production or film activities?
Well, again, these other actors that we looked at, and there's a wide range of them. Some of them did bigger films and some of them did gigantic films. But it is very reasonable to assume that once you are in an Aquaman-style film, you'll either continue to do those, right? Some of these franchises, as we know, go 4, 5, 6 films, or she would probably have been in another studio film that had nothing to do with Aquaman. But again, so over the course of 5 years, it's very reasonable to consider that she would have been in at least 1 film a year at a minimum of $4 million, because that's what her precedent would have been had she renegotiated.
Johnny owes her
And
$50 million.
It's important to note that in her Justice League contract, if there is a Aquaman 3, her price is set at $4 million. So it's very reasonable to assume and to believe that if she
This
did
is
film
so
here
stupid.
for 5 years at a minimum of $4 million a year without any
Please.
negotiation, which probably would have happened, but let's just say that baseline, that would be another $20 million over that time frame.
What, if any, opinions do you have about Amber Heard's earning power over time?
That it would continue to rise. It's customary in the industry, as I've talked about earlier, that the negotiations, especially with her agents at William Morris, her fees would have gone higher. So I'm just using the baseline without any ability to foresee in the future that I already know she got negotiated for $4 million from Aquaman 3. So if we use that as a baseline minimum, but it very well would have gone up had her agents done the work that they wanted to do.
So combining all of these opinions and calculations that you've had, what, if any, range are the losses you are estimating for Amber Heard but for the Depp Waldman
Okay,
statements?
thank God. All right.
Right, so again, it's really important that I looked at, and hopefully you understand this, that it's over time, right? So let's just say a minimum of 5 years.
Yeah,
that
sure.
We're going to talk about these losses, and it could be more.
It's like
but at
$50 million.
minimum, if you look at the
That's what she's going to
film,
say, something like
the
that.
television, and the endorsement
Yeah, all
contracts,
together.
It's very likely that Ms. Heard should have earned between $45 and $50 million over that time period.
That's the math.
Are all your opinions to within a reasonable degree of probability or certainty?
No.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, let's go ahead and take our afternoon recess, ladies and gentlemen. Do not do any outside research and do not discuss this case with anybody.
May I sit down?
Yeah, you can step down. That's fine.